Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the second episode of Racquet Rambles. Now, excuse me, this is a little bit of a new setup. I felt like for this series and my podcast, the lighting would be a little bit better if I were to just get the green screen out and just have the light from above end up seeking in. Because I think it looks a lot better and cleaner that way rather than just having the green screen there without obviously me being transparent up against something. But yeah, either way, this is the second episode of Racquet Rambles, where I go through my own personal philosophies, lessons that other people could learn in life, and just my opinions on stuff that I want to talk about. So the first episode was about a little bit of a personal discussion of talent. This episode's actually going to be a philosophy that a lot of people do follow, but I think it can somewhat be damaging too. So not giving a fuck, I think, is something that a lot of people take out of context and apply it to every single facet of their life without interpreting it properly. So, in my opinion, and I think trying to analyze the emotional spectrum and how things leak into assets of our life through entertainment, through media, through characters created. Evolution is something that is really portrayed as something that is positive, but how is evolution done? It is done through hardship. It is done through experience. It is done through things that maybe not necessarily would make your life a lot easier in that initial period of time of your experience, right? Here's the thing. In order to evolve, I feel like emotion is going to be one of the forefront sort of standout things that needs to be in play. I think it's very important to have emotion when you're experiencing a struggle in life, because then you learn to deal with it better in the future. Now, whether you may like it or not, there will be instances in your life where you fuck up. That's the bottom line. There will be instances in your life where you are met with success. It happens. Looking at both sides of the spectrum, you're going to react differently to those different outcomes and perspectives. Here's the thing. The reason why I'm relating this to not giving a fuck is because you're separating these two when you're encountering this from an emotional side, and you're feeling the drug, you're feeling the emotional outbreak, because you're separating the difference between what is good and bad, what is exhilarating and what is depressing, right? What can maybe perhaps be a light at the end of the tunnel, you're going to seek it more often because you know what the feeling is to find that success, and when you do find it, you're going to hunt it down. I think trying to acknowledge your emotions and trying to pursue the better ones that you can encounter is something that I really, really believe in. So let's look at the other side of the spectrum and not giving a fuck. There are people everywhere. The concept of not giving a fuck is like you're going through situations and circumstances in life where you're trying to block outside feelings, where you're just trying to remain not neutral, but you're trying to remain calm, collected, which I don't mind. That's completely fine. But you're not reacting to things in a sort of extreme way that I believe the emotional cycle can. The art, so like not giving a fuck means that in my like just from a base standpoint, you're not going to experience that same feeling on both sides, and I think that's very important. It's very easy to say that you're going to be putting on this like theoretical like imaginary armor, and there's haters, there's lovers. In order to not give a fuck, you're not only blocking the haters, but you're blocking the lovers too. That's what not giving a fuck means, right? You're doing it from both sides of the end there. In order to evolve, in order to change as a person, I feel like experiencing the worst and acknowledging what you can be and acknowledging what has been in terms of a positive experience can boost yourself in order to get back there in the first place. The reason why emotions are so important is because it teaches us. Emotions can be fucking awful, abysmal. They can be absolutely outstanding. But the thing that stops people, the things that starts people, will be the thing that we're searching for, the goal, the end destination. Right? Suicide rates are really high at the current moment in time. But at the same time, society, we're trying to stop that from happening. When we're acknowledging that this is happening, when psychiatrists, psychologists, professionals, counselors acknowledge to the person when they're in this bad time, they do not simply say, oh, just put on this imaginary armor, block everything out. What they try to do is they understand and try to attempt to understand where it's coming from. Let's just block out all the tangibles in terms of like medication and stuff like that. We're just focusing purely on the emotional spectrum here. They try to figure out where the source comes from. They try to figure out, okay, why is this happening to you? Is it in relation to your past? Is it in relation to like a thought process, a trigger? Because it all goes back to one thing. It all does. And without attempting to understand it, when you're ignoring these things, when you're effectively running away. You're not standing there and putting armor on and tanking everything. You're running away. That's what you are. Because when an extreme situation comes in your life, that's when it's going to hit you the hardest. No matter how strong you are. No matter how strong you are. See, what happens is, fellas, humans, this happened to me a lot. Especially in my childhood days where I was a lot more cocky and egotistical. It takes one huge event, one negative thing to impact your life in order to change your outlook. But the problem is, you don't realize it until it actually happens. That's the thing. You don't realize it until it actually happens. You know why? Because once the most extreme thing happens, once it's on that far end, then you start to think, shit, I don't want this to ever happen to me ever again. I want to change. You no longer have this idea. And if you do still want to adopt this idea, then it will hurt you once another extreme happens. Owning up to your emotions, acknowledging why they're there is important. Whether you're diagnosed with a mental health condition, whether you have bipolar, whether you have borderline personality disorder, whether you have anxiety, acknowledging your weaknesses, acknowledging your strengths is something that needs to be taken into consideration. Because the best type of advice is honesty and knowing how you're going to get to a better place. Your best friends, the thing that segregates your friends from your best friends, in my opinion, is when you ask for advice. Because it's very easy to ask someone off like an acquaintance and ask for help and be like, right, so this is happening, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, it's all going to be better, it's all going to be smooth sailing, all you need to do is wait it out. That's bullshit. Anyone can say that. I can say that, you can say that, Fred next door can say that, Alice from down the street can say that. What is better, for me at least, I think this is really unique in a person. And this is what constructs an absolute champion of a person, a best friend. is acknowledging how to articulate yourself to that person and playing to how they are in order to get them to a better place. Because bullshitting and saying the same shit over and over again, that won't get that person to anywhere else different. Because as I said, anyone else can say that shit. Being unique and adapting to the personality of someone that needs help is what needs to happen. Yes, there can be an objective circle of, okay, this what needs to happen as our own goal. We need this person to be better. We can't go throughout these boundaries, but at the same time, you need to attack it in a different way, right? Shit, I nearly knocked off my pop filter there. And that's what not giving a fuck, relating back to that. It's important. It truly is. To make sure that we do give a fuck. Empathy, sympathy, these emotions are great and bad at the same time. But it's a power. It leads us to compassion. It leads us to connecting with people in other ways that we haven't thought of before. It leads to building communities to feel better about ourselves through communication and acknowledging who we are as people, because not giving a fuck ignores all those factors and says, right, I don't want to be involved with the community. I'm just going to stand out here as an individual, pretend nothing else exists, and I'm not going to progress as a person. I could stay strong for quite a very long time if things go out well. Sure. But you're not going to progress into the strongest person you possibly can be because you're ignoring factors. Emotion is how you build a character. Emotion is how you evolve. There's a character from DC called Doomsday. This is a comic book. One of the arch rivals of Superman. This character, Doomsday, was a sort of scientific experiment by a foreign alien species on Krypton, the same planet that Superman was on. Maybe it was another planet, I'm not too sure. And basically, Doomsday was scientifically tested on several times. Just imagine a sort of Hulk-like being, but with like spikes and a sort of grey, big, huge physique. But he never started as that. He started off quite small. But what made Doomsday so special, and what makes him theoretically infinite in power, was the way that he started. Now, of course, it's a little bit awkward, of course, in that, you know, there were scientific experiments conducted in order for him to reach that state. But the idea was, the philosophy was, is that he had special DNA cells that allowed him to adapt to what was killing him. So basically, he would get resurrected each time and become pretty much immune to what previously had halted him in the first place. So he was getting killed hundreds, thousands of times by different things. He was getting melted in lava. He was getting spewed on by acid. He was getting physically assaulted, splattered by spikes. But he would be constantly resurrected and be immune to what he previously was. He started off as an infant that could barely, you know, tackle an animal, a blank space, nothing there. But he evolved. A character that had no strength turned into a character that could rival Superman down the line. Ended up killing him in a series. Through constant evolution. Through constant evolution of failing, and through hundreds of years of torture, managed to get there. Now that's obviously a very extreme scenario. I'm not expecting you to kill yourself, respawn, and magically end up getting physical attributes that obviously are not of the human kind. But I'm applying that to an emotional state, in that your emotions adapt. You evolve as a person from knowing how bad these circumstances can be and how to tackle them in the future. I'm not necessarily saying you have to go up to everyone and ask for help every single time, because I think being an individual and knowing how to do it yourself is great. That's where I think not giving a fuck really helps, actually. That is the best part of not giving a fuck, right? Knowing how to deal with it yourself, because at the end of the day, the best person, the only person who can help you the best is you. Because if everyone else died on the planet, if the person that you relied on the most randomly disappeared, you're going to be destroyed. Every decision you make in life is dictated by you. You know why? Because you're involved in everything, aren't you? When you're talking to someone, you're talking to someone, aren't you? You're involved in that two-way conversation. That's the common theme. That's where I think not giving a fuck is like the most important. That's the most important aspect of extracting. Being an individual and knowing how to play to your cards correctly. At the same time though, once I said at the beginning of the video, emotions are very important to understand, but tackling them yourself, not ignoring them, tackling them is important. It's important. Whether you're going to ask for professional help, whether you're going to get medication. That's all up to you. It's up to you, isn't it? Whether you're going to change your diet. How are you going to apply yourself? It's important in life. There are going to be people who are going to escalate you. It could be your family. It could be your best friend. It could be your pet dog. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's you that makes that decision. That's an important thing about not giving a fuck. That's the main thing that you can extract from that, as I said previously. The concept of being an individual, you're in control of everything that you do. I agree with that. It's just you also need to acknowledge it as well. You need to acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses and play with the hand that you're dealt and do the best you possibly can. It sounds niche as fuck. It does. But if this video has 10 views and helps one person, if this video has 2 views, it doesn't help anyone. Maybe it grows 4 years down the line and it gets 3 views and one person ends up being affected by it. I'm happy. Maybe no one gets affected by it. I'm getting my thoughts out there. I'm expressing my opinion. But it means a lot. It certainly does. My opinion is being brought forth. This is what I think. Either way, not giving a fuck, I think, has some negative boundaries to it, but it does bring something positive in being an individual. You need to acknowledge your emotions. You need to be yourself. And don't be someone that you're not by putting on a mask. That's very important. Be transparent, because you're not going to reflect on how you are. This has happened in relationships with a lot of my friends. I look at them and I'm thinking, you are in no way close to how this person is. What you're doing is you're putting on a mask to interpret someone that you think they will like more. Sure, with relationships, sometimes it can actually work and opposite people attract each other, because that's sometimes how synergy works. With me, I personally want someone who's quite similar. I want someone who plays video games with me, dude. I want someone I can watch anime with. That's just how I am personally. Maybe it doesn't work for the rest of you guys. But either way, I'm on a tangent at the end of this video. I appreciate the guys that have been supporting me for a very long time. Second episode took a little bit to upload because I was thinking of a subject that I wanted to nail down. But yeah, I appreciate all of you guys. Much love. If you have any topics that you feel like could help you personally, feel free to send it down in the comments. Send me a PM on Discord, Twitch, whatever you may feel like. I love you all. Make sure to enjoy yourselves. Take care. Second episode of Racquet Rambles.